I stand before you with a heavy heart and an unshakable conviction. For too long, too many have turned their eyes away from what is happening to a people and a land that has given so much to the region and to humanity. Today, I will not look away. Today I stand with Qatar and I urge those who hold power, especially His Royal Highness Mohammed Bin Salman and the leadership of Saudi Arabia, to respond, to act, and to choose a different path, the path of peace and protection. When I speak of Qatar, I am not speaking of a name on a map. I am speaking of a nation that has opened its doors, built bridges, and shown compassion. Qatar has stood with us in times of hardship. Qatar has stood for humanity when others hesitated. This is why I stand with Qatar now. This is why I cannot remain silent. What has happened in recent months has shaken the conscience of the world. Acts that undermine the dignity, security, and sovereignty of Qatar must not be normalized, excused, or allowed to repeat. I condemn without reservation the injustices and aggression that Qatar has suffered. No nation and no people deserve to live under the shadow of intimidation. No leader should feel abandoned by his neighbors when the storm arrives. If we believe in the shared future of the Gulf, then we must believe in shared responsibility, shared protection, and shared humanity. To my brothers and sisters in the region, to those who sit in palaces and parliaments, I say this: history is watching. Generations yet unborn will ask what we did when a friend and ally was placed in peril. Did we raise our voices or remain silent? Did we build bridges or burn them? Did we stand for justice or stand aside? I speak directly, and with all sincerity, to His Royal Highness Mohammed Bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. I do this not out of disrespect, but out of deep respect for the weight of the office you hold and for the transformative potential that rests in your hands. Your voice carries weight far beyond the borders of Saudi Arabia. When you speak, the world listens. When you act, the world takes note. The Gulf watches, the Middle East watches, and the wider international community watches. This is not only because of the size of your nation or the wealth of your resources. It is because of the position of influence you occupy at a time when influence can be used to divide or unite, to escalate or heal, to weaken or strengthen. Your decisions reverberate far beyond Riyadh. They ripple through every capital in the region. They set the tone for policies. They shape expectations. They signal to both friends and rivals what the future will look like. With that power comes responsibility. Not only to your own people who have entrusted you with their future, but also to your neighbors, your allies, and all who share a common destiny with you on this peninsula. With responsibility also comes opportunity. Opportunity is not a burden but a gift. The chance to leave a mark on history, remembered not for conflict, but for concord, not for rivalry, but for reconciliation. The opportunity before you is immense. It is the chance to lead not only your nation, but the entire region into a new era. An era defined not by suspicion, but by trust, not by isolation, but by partnership, not by zero-sum struggles, but by shared progress. It is the opportunity to protect those who have stood by you, to heal wounds that have lingered too long, to build structures of cooperation strong enough to endure storms and crises. This is the kind of leadership the region needs. This is the kind of leadership history rewards. I urge you with all sincerity to seize this opportunity, not to let it slip away in the noise of daily politics, not to let it be diminished by old grudges or fleeting calculations. Seize it as a statesman, as a builder of a legacy that will outlive one lifetime. Respond to the pain and pleas of Qatar, a neighbor, a fellow member of the Gulf community, a nation that has given much and asked for little. Respond not just with words, but with deeds that reassure, protect, and signal a new chapter. In moments of crisis, true leaders step forward. They do not step back. In times of uncertainty, true leaders offer clarity. They do not hide behind ambiguity. In moments of division, true leaders build bridges. They do not dig deeper trenches. Respond also to the call for peace. The call rising from ordinary men and women across the region who simply want to live in dignity, raise their children without fear, and see their nations prosper together rather than at each other's expense. This call for peace is not weakness, nor is it naivete. It is a recognition of reality that the future we share will be safer, stronger, and more prosperous if we choose cooperation over confrontation. The Gulf, with its shared culture, faith, and intertwined histories, is uniquely positioned to become a beacon of unity rather than division. But this will not happen automatically. It will happen because leaders like you decide to make it happen. Show the world, Your Royal Highness, that the Gulf can indeed be that beacon. Show that the stories emerging from this region need not always be of discord, but of dialogue, not always of rivalry, but of reconciliation. Show that true strength can be expressed not only through military might or economic power, but through generosity, foresight, and the courage to extend a hand instead of clenching a fist. Imagine the message it would send if Saudi Arabia, under your leadership, took bold and visible steps to reassure Qatar of its safety and its value as a partner. Imagine the shock waves of hope that would spread across the Gulf, the Arab world, and the global community. It would signal that a new chapter is beginning, that old patterns of mistrust are being broken, and that a new standard of leadership is being set. Such an achievement would endure far longer than any temporary gain won by pressure or isolation. This is not about erasing differences or pretending challenges do not exist. It is about recognizing that, in a turbulent world, stability comes not from domination, but from cooperation. Security is not built on the weakness of neighbors, but on their strength. Prosperity does not grow behind walls, but across bridges. Qatar has been a loyal ally, a supporter of humanitarian causes, and a mediator in disputes. In its hour of need, it should not find itself alone. And you, Mohammed Bin Salman, have the power to ensure that does not happen. You have the power to model a leadership rooted in dignity, responsibility, and vision. I appeal to you directly, seize this moment. Let your choices be remembered not as reactions to crisis, but as acts of statesmanship. Let your legacy be not only the transformation of your own nation, but also the transformation of a region. From suspicion to solidarity, respond to the pain and pleas of Qatar. Respond to the call for peace. Show the world through your actions that the Gulf can be a beacon of unity rather than division. This is the moment when history bends. It will bend toward reconciliation if leaders guide it that way. It will bend toward division if leaders stand aside. The choice is yours. The opportunity is yours. The responsibility is yours. And with it comes the potential to inspire millions, protect the vulnerable, heal old wounds, and build a future of shared prosperity. I speak these words not as an enemy, but as a friend, not to criticize, but to call forth the highest and best in your leadership. I believe you can rise to this occasion. I believe Saudi Arabia can be a partner in peace. I believe the Gulf deserves a future defined by unity and hope. And I believe that as I stand with Qatar, you too can stand for what is just, humane, and lasting. Some may expect me to soften my words with empty platitudes. I cannot. Not when lives, livelihoods, and the soul of a nation are at stake. To remain silent would be to betray my conscience and the values that Qatar itself has embodied: generosity, loyalty, and a commitment to the human family. When injustice knocks on the door of a neighbor, it will one day knock on your own. That is why I speak now, before it is too late. I speak to you now with both passion and clarity, because I have been in contact with His Highness Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani and with Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani. I know the weight they carry, the responsibility they bear, and the trust placed in their hands, not only by their own people but by the region and the world. When I say I stand with Qatar, it is not just a phrase, it is a promise. And when I urge Mohammed bin Salman to respond, it is because true leadership demands more than silence. It demands action, protection, and compassion. Every leader has a duty to safeguard those around them, especially allies who have stood firm when others turned away. Your Highness Sheikh Tamim, you have shown what loyalty looks like. You have opened doors, offered help, and spoken for humanity when others hesitated. And you, Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman, have carried that voice to the global stage with diplomacy and courage, showing that Qatar's concern is not only politics but people. Yet the injustices Qatar has endured must not be allowed to stand. I condemn in the strongest terms the violations of dignity and sovereignty that have struck Qatar. I condemn actions that deprive people of safety, spread fear, and erode trust. And I lament that Qatar has had to bear burdens no sovereign nation should ever face alone. I appeal to you, Mohammed bin Salman, do not stand back. You cannot claim to care for regional stability, while remaining silent when a neighbor is harmed. You cannot speak of protection and then fail to protect. You must respond. You must act. You must ensure such harm never happens again. Qatar has always been more than a nation. It has been a beacon. When there was need, Qatar brought aid. When bridges were needed, Qatar built them. When the world saw division, Qatar saw possibility. That loyalty, that humanity, that generosity deserve recognition, deserve support, and above all, deserve protection. Let us work together. His Highness Sheikh Tamim, I respect your vision and your record. Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed, I honor your diplomacy and leadership. Together, we can ensure such injustice is not repeated. Together, Saudi Arabia under Mohammed bin Salman can choose a different path, one of guardianship, not neglect, peace, not tension, cooperation, not distance. Our people look for stories where power is used rightly, where those who can protect, where those who can build peace, build it. This is your moment, Mohammed bin Salman. This is your chance to prove that true leadership lies not in words but in deeds. The world is listening. The world is watching. To Emir Sheikh Tamim, to Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman, I stand with you. I believe in your strength. And I believe in what Qatar represents, humanity, loyalty, and dignity. And to Mohammed bin Salman, I say respond. Let your legacy be defined not by what was permitted, but by what was prevented. Let this moment mark not another chapter of neglect, but a turning point. A story of peace, protection, and true alliance. Because if we act together, then not only Qatar wins, the region wins, humanity wins. No friend must be abandoned, no ally left vulnerable, no voice silenced. Qatar, with its long record of compassion and courage, deserves nothing less than our fullest support, our loudest voices, and leadership that does what is right. Qatar has been a loyal ally to the United States, a partner in security, a voice for moderation, and a supporter of humanitarian causes. When disasters struck distant lands, Qatar sent aid. When conflicts erupted, Qatar offered mediation. When refugees needed shelter, Qatar opened its arms. This is a nation that has acted not out of self-interest but out of principle. And yet, in its own hour of need, it faces isolation and threats that cannot be allowed to stand. Some in the region may fear that acknowledging wrongs shows weakness. The truth is the opposite. It takes courage to admit harm. It takes strength to choose reconciliation over retaliation. It takes vision to declare enough. That this must not happen again. Courage, strength, vision. These are not weaknesses, they are the hallmarks of true leadership. They are what I ask of you, His Royal Highness. They are what the world asks of you. I extend my hand not in criticism but in cooperation. I am not here to shame but to appeal to the better angels of our nature. I offer you, Mohammed bin Salman, an invitation. Let us work together for peace. Let us build a new compact among Gulf nations, one that guarantees security for all, respect for all, and dignity for all. Let us show the world that we can rise above grievances, suspicion, and division. The people of Qatar deserve to live without fear. The children of the Gulf deserve a future without threats. And the leaders of this region have the power to make that future real. We can invest in weapons or we can invest in hope. We can escalate tensions or we can diffuse them. We can allow history to repeat itself or we can write a new chapter. The choice is ours. The choice is yours. I know there are those who whisper that nothing can change, that rivalry and resentment are too strong. I reject that. I believe change is possible because I have seen it. I have seen enemies become partners. I have seen wounds heal. I have seen divided communities come together again. But it never happens by accident. It happens because someone, somewhere, stands up and says no more. Not in my name. Not on my watch. Today I stand, raising my voice not out of anger but out of duty, not out of division but out of hope. With every fiber of my being I say no more. No more turning away while neighbors suffer. No more accepting mistrust and tension as if they were the natural order. No more standing idle while peace slips through our hands. Not in my name, not on my watch. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity, and I will not be complicit. Silence in the face of fear is surrender, and I will not surrender. I choose to speak, to act, to call for something better. I call on Mohammed Bin Salman and on Saudi Arabia to join me. This is not a challenge to humiliate. It is an invitation to elevate, a chance to show that true greatness lies not in isolation but in inclusion, not in dominance but in dignity, not in winning at another's expense but in ensuring all can thrive. Stand with Qatar, not against it. Stand for the bonds that unite our peoples, for the values we carry in our prayers, for the future we dream for our children. Stand for security that is shared, not one-sided, for prosperity that is mutual, not monopolized. Build peace, not barriers. Build trust that cannot be bought with wealth or weapons, but earned through courage and consistency. Build bridges of dialogue so strong that no storm can wash them away. Build a record of leadership, remembered not for what was taken from neighbors, but for how neighbors were lifted up. Respond, do not retreat. Respond to the pain and pleas of those who look to you. Respond to the call for unity rising from markets, mosques, and homes across the region. Respond to the yearning of ordinary people who want to live in dignity, free from fear, proud of their identity yet open to their neighbors. Retreat is easy, it demands only silence. Response is harder, it requires courage, humility, and vision. But only response can shape the future, and the world is watching. It watches not out of idle curiosity, but because what happens here matters everywhere. Energy markets, security alliances, humanitarian partnerships, all are shaped by the choices of the Gulf. The people are waiting. They wait for signs of hope, for proof that their leaders will not let old grievances define new generations. They wait for evidence that words like brotherhood and unity are more than slogans. The future is calling. It does not belong to those who look back in anger, but to those who look forward with resolve. Let us be those people. Let us seize this moment. Let us prove that leadership in the Gulf can mean compassion as well as strength, foresight as well as firmness. Let us choose peace over pride, cooperation over confrontation, unity over division. If we do, our children will look back on this moment not as when everything fell apart, but as when everything began to come together. We cannot erase the pain of the past, but we can prevent its repetition. We cannot undo what has been done, but we can shape what comes next. Let the next chapter be one of cooperation, not conflict. Let the next headline tell of healing, not harm. Let the next generation say they were wise, they were brave, they chose unity. Qatar has stood for humanity. Now humanity must stand for Qatar, and those with the greatest power, like Mohammed Bin Salman, bear the greatest duty. Respond to that duty. Answer that call. Let us walk this path together, hand in hand, nation with nation, heart with heart. I will not stop speaking until the day comes when every child in the Gulf wakes without fear, when every nation prospers without threat, when every leader greets his neighbor without suspicion. That day can come. It will come if we choose it. So I stand here, not merely as an individual, but as a voice for all who long for peace and dignity. I stand with Qatar. I extend my hand to Mohammed Bin Salman. I urge him to respond, to act, to lead. I ask all of you to join me in that call. Together we can turn the tide. Together we can honor the best within us. Together we can make the words, "never again," not a slogan, but a reality.